Hello, friends. As we come to another Sunday, we shall look at another passage from the Bible, First Peter chapter 2, verses 4 to 10. And this passage, Peter is doing two things. One is reminding the believers of who they are, their identity. And the second thing is, based on that identity, he is also reminding them of their responsibility. Now, if we read verses 4 and 5, which reads, "As you come to him, a living stone rejected by men, but in the sight of God chosen and precious. You yourselves, like living stones, are being built up as a spiritual house to be a holy priesthood, to offer spiritual sacrifices acceptable to God through Jesus Christ." Here, Peter is saying that the church, as a community of believers, is a spiritual house where Jesus Christ is the cornerstone. And they are not just the house, the spiritual house, but they are also the priesthood who works in that house. So now, as the spiritual house and as the priesthood, what is their responsibility? Their responsibility is to offer spiritual sacrifices acceptable to God through Jesus Christ. Now, what does this mean? This means to live a life of faithful obedience, as one of the commentators put it. Or it is a life lived according to the will of God, sacrificing your own desires. You see, you desire something, but then you sacrifice that desire in order to do what God wants you to do. So, living a life of sacrificing your desire in order to do the will of God, that kind of life is a spiritual worship pleasing to God. And then in verse 9, we see, "But you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people for his own possession, that you may proclaim the excellencies of him who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light." Now, here also, he is pointing out the identity of these believers, that they are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation. And what is their responsibility? To proclaim the excellencies of him who called them out of darkness into his marvelous light. As a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, which is the identity of the church, what is our responsibility? To tell the world of what God has done for them. Now, the first thing that I want to point out is that Peter is addressing this to Christians who were going through difficult times in their life, who are going through trials in their life. You see, when we go through any kind of sufferings in our life, one thing is others are going to judge us and raise questions and doubts about our genuineness. And they may level different kind of accusations against us. And the second thing is, questions and doubts will arise even from within ourselves. Maybe as a result of what they are saying and accusing us, or as a result of what we are going through in our life, as a result of the situations in our own life. So now, by pointing out who they are in God, Peter is reassuring and comforting these Christians, these believers who are going through trials in their life. He is reminding them that, okay, see, you are God's people. You're God's chosen race. People who are God's own possession. People who have received the mercy of God. And so this fact, your identity, who you are in God, does not change because of what you are going through in your life. He also reminded them of the living stone who was rejected by the world. That doesn't mean that God also has rejected him. Even though the world rejected him, in the sight of God, he was a chosen and precious one. And the same is true of these Christians as well. He's reminding them that in spite of what you're going through, in spite of what others may be telling you, maybe talking about you, your identity in God, who you are in God, hasn't changed. You are still God's people. You are still chosen race. You are still people who have received the mercy of God. How comforting and reassuring this must have been to people who are reading this letter. It must have comforted them and strengthened their faith in God. And the second thing that I want to point out is that, as we have seen in verses 4 and 5, as well as in verse 9, their responsibility is because of what their identity is, because of who they are in God. You know, there are many people who do just the opposite. They work so hard, they try to follow God's commandment properly with the hope and expectation that if they are able to follow God's commandment properly, if they work hard enough, maybe God will accept them as his people. That kind of way of doing things may be true with our fellow human beings, or that may be the case with your boss at your workplace, but that is not how things work with God, my friends. Not with God. You see, when 10 commandments were given to the Israelites, God did not say, see, I'm giving you these 10 commandments, you follow them properly, and if you are able to follow them properly, then I will accept you and call you as my people. God did not say that. Rather, what God said is, see, I have delivered you out of Egypt, and I've called you as my people. I have accepted you as my people. I'm your God. You are my people. And because you are my people, you follow my commandments. You live according to my way of life. And that same concept is also working here. We are already God's people. We are already chosen race, a royal priesthood. We have already received mercy of God. And because of that, we are to live a life of worship and a life of testimony. We testify who God is to the world and bring glory back to God. Now, before I end this video, today is the second Sunday of May, a Sunday dedicated to our wonderful martyrs. And so I want to take this time and wish all the martyrs watching this video a happy Martyrs' Day. I want to thank all the martyrs for their life, for the lives that they have nourished, for all the sacrifices that they have made for the family, for the warmth that they bring to our homes. We love you, and once again, happy Mother's Day. Thank you for listening, and God bless you.